I have to do this because I took out my compromise. I can do it. If you would, please. Yeah. It'll be easier. Younger eyes. Oh.
Thank you for doing that. That's great. Aaron, I appreciate you turning the heat on.
Yes.
I don't know if
Good start here.
Yes.
We have the speed and volume.
everything's on.
Okay.
Actually, will turn it on.
Okay, it is 6:30, so I will call the meeting to order. This is the Planning Commission voting meeting, January 12th, 2026, 6:30 p.m. And with us from the commission is Sheila Vaccaro, Steve Mitten, Quentin Pearl, Matt Clapp, and Alan Burke. Any announcements from anyone? Citizen comments from items not on the agenda? Okay. Along in a nice clip, that's great. So the last meeting we did, at the work session, we did the CARB and the zoning hearing board reports. So I don't think there's any reason to repeat that unless there's anything that's developed and you want to. Okay. Moving us right into old business. So there's a resolution to adopt, we discussed the resolution to adopt a plan titled Parks for All, the Westchester Borough Park, Recreation and Open Space. So we did discuss this in a work session, and essentially it's sort of want everybody to have their chance to speak to this. I think there's a couple of issues in place. There is the letter from the county, which it really sounds to me more like it's structural. They're just advising. They're not really arguing with the contents of it so much as they are the structure. And it seems to me like that might be something that could be added to if we get a resolution today. Without damaging any of the infrastructure. We're pleased to have Mr. Committa with us tonight, who has
Just one point of order.
Okay.
So in the county letter, so in the resolution, the fourth paragraph has a blank for the date, and it might imply that the date would be the letter from the county dated December 3, 2025. I might be wrong on that, but just bear with me a moment. So Mr. Estes here, what I'm about to say, he can affirm or deny or whatever. When the county submits a vision partnership review comments, as you pointed out, Alan, they're kind of advisory. The county provided the grant to the borough. And so Kevin Myers, the author of the December 3, 2025 letter, identified 7 areas that the plan could be strengthened. In order to adopt an addendum to a comprehensive plan, the county has to do their Act 247 review process, where according to the municipality's planning code, the plan is sent to the school district, the Borough Planning Commission, and the adjoining municipalities 45 days prior to the adoption of the plan. In the Act 247 letter, that group, which is down the hall from the group who did this, will cite this letter. But Borough Council cannot adopt this plan until it goes through the Act 247 review process. So all you have to do tomorrow is send this plan to the school district, you already have it, and the adjoining municipalities, and to the county for their Act 247 review. Wait 45 days, and then you can pop the champagne. You can have a hearing and so forth. And I just want to point out the difference between a vision partnership review, which is what this is, and it's so captioned RE, and the actual Act 247 review. Now, I hadn't thought about that at the work session, otherwise I would have brought it up last week. But on the way over, it occurred to me that if the resolution blank is meant to include December 5, 2025, it's premature. So it's an easy piece of process. You just have to go through that process. Mr. Astley, am I wrong?
Well, you're not wrong, except the December 3rd, 2025 letter indicates it is both a BPP contract and an Act 247.
Excellent.
So,
Okay.
so, and I don't know whether,
It got sent to everybody.
I think that it was already sent to the contiguous municipalities and the school district, but I don't know that for sure.
If it did, then you can go right ahead
No.
and act on it.
Well, you can anyway, but we would have to make sure before council holds its hearing that it went through all these procedures.
Yeah, I mean, we could make that a condition of our approval, yeah. So now we're to assuring that the county letter is the outline of the changes the county is proposing be included. Me, the central question still comes down to that of trying to get our rec space / fee in lieu issue resolved, because 2 years ago, we delayed action, badly needed action, because the borough, in my opinion, was besieged by proposals that offered the satisfaction of rec space issues through third floor swimming pools that I thought were did not meet the standard. And at that time, we all discussed this, and Tom, I think you advised us that with Parks working on this study, we should wait the conclusion of this before we act. And so we discussed this with them when they were there, and their response was private space is unlawful. Turns out not true. And they promised a site. And they promised to give us a citation of that, which they didn't do. We also asked them for municipalities where that we could examine and review and perhaps model going forward, which they said they would do, and they did not. So my question is, are we still, Tom, you said, well, at the meeting, you said, well, I think maybe we can still kind of work through it, and I just don't want this to continue. That's the precedent that to me is, I mean, if there is building, if the borough is besieged by more of these buildings, it won't matter what kind of parks we have, you know? There's another 25 of these in the borough. We've lost it. We have become extant, and then we might just as well not pay any attention to any other situations. So anyway, so that's a long way of asking you, do you feel as though we're in a position, and so at the work session, Mr. Kmitter was nice enough to offer up a municipality he felt we might model ourselves after. Concord Township,
Concord Township,
Delaware County. Yeah, so it's something. I just want the information. I don't want to hold the Parks Department in a critical state. I just want to get the problem solved. Right? So,
Well, my view is that this draft plan provides information from which we can draft amendments to the subdivision and land development ordinance, including the fee in lieu. And I know Tom has already done some work on it. So again, the first step is to get council to approve the plan. And then if that's the council and commission's will, we'll start to work on amendments to the subdivision plan.
okay.
Just a clarification
Yeah.
from the administration side, let's use a discussion with Sean, myself, and Tom, and add the email that we are nowhere near opening up the saldo and redoing all of the information for parks and lieu or fees and lieu. The original request was to define a couple of things as to whether or not, you know, the private courtyards or private facilities such as Chestnut Street, where they have the pool on the second floor where only the people in the building can use it. Whether or not those accounted for areas that could be used in that regard. To recalculate the fees and actually opening up and rewriting the ordinance, which is not the place to do that. You don't have the money available. So that's going to be one of the things that we wanted to use for that was actually another grant from the county, and we don't want to go into that without having another one.
And now, could I make one other comment? So at the work session, I mentioned that Aaron and Keith Karofsky and I, which, by the way, the minutes are coming up next, and there's a typo on how to spell Karofsky.
I was
K-U.
sent that by.
Yeah, but what I offered to do to Keith in front of Aaron was that Keith made a list of the improvements that are described here in 4 hours with Keith and Aaron, Don Edwards and I. We could actually, mostly me, identify what all the costs are. So if the planning commission is inclined to recommend approval, by the time it gets to council, which is sometime in February, if Keith makes his list, and if everybody has 4 hours, I will use 52 years of park planning and design and construction, cost estimating, to fill in the blanks that are not here. What gave me pause is that the numbers are here. So I just want to ask you to indulge me and say, Concord did the ordinance in 1988. It's been in effect since then. They've made over $20 million. They bought a bunch of land for open space. In 2018, I'm working with Quincy's employer, Brandywine Conservancy. TCA did, let me just pass this over. TCA did the Chadsport plan. And if you go to the last page of the Chadsport plan, in 4 hours with their engineer, which also happens to be Pinetta, but Mike Schneider is the representative of Pinetta, and a representative of the Brandywine Conservancy, we did the estimated cost. That's on page 107 of this plan. we knew the list. This is the description. So I renewed my 4-hour offer that if Keith makes the list, any of us could make the list because it's in here. It just hasn't been committed to a table. If Keith makes the list, and 4 of us sit down, by the time council meets in February, or if not by March, we could fill it out. The value to the borough would be when Keith applies for the grant that's due in April, and the county reviews the request for X dollars for this or that. If it's hardwired in something, as I mentioned at the work session, it raises in the pile. Because one of the questions in the grant application criteria is, does this request comply with any preceding study or homework or analysis? And if the answer is yes, you get 10 points. If the answer is no, you get 0 points for that item. There's a lot of other items. So anyway, just wanted to mention that it's not rocket science. Matt is an engineer. He would know, for example, possibly the linear. So if you build an 16-foot alley or an 18-foot alley or a 24-foot road with curbs, what's the cost per linear foot, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, what strikes me here is that it would be possible, I think, for us to write our own motion, our resolution, supporting this approval of this, conditions being exercise of the direction of that the county has outlined in its letter in form and function, and the assurance that the 45-day wait period that this whole 247 issue is accomplished. I think this is our job. It's really not our job to approve this. It's Borough Council's job to approve it with our recommendations to what should happen. And then I think we can could attach to that a recommendation. It is perfectly logical to me that if you are putting a plan together like this, what Tom is recommending in terms of costing it out would seem logical. The borough, who's the one holding the purse strings and can't afford it right now, and that's the resolution of the matter. Our budget is 0. We can't, really spend any money. So anyway, I'm just throwing out ideas, and then I'd like to just go around the table, ask the members to speak to their support, their reservations, any thoughts that they have about what should be considered. Wendy, you want to start?
Yeah. I agree with everything that Eleanor said, but I think that tightening up that appendum or appendix and figuring out the costs, probable costs for the rec space fee in lieu of would get this whole thing moving. And I don't have anything else. Do you want to?
Steve?
You can come back to me. Oh, yeah.
I'm in 100% agreement with Alan. I mean, that is our function to advise, and those are, obviously, if Tom said that 247 it's already complied with, that is consider, but certainly the appendix of what the cost would be. You said last week that it's essential to any grants that we're going to be applying for.
Yeah, you don't have to include that in the document if you don't want. I just think it would be helpful to keep that it gets done before it applies for the grant.
I think it's 100% reasonable. Better we should. So, yeah.
Matt?
I'm glad Tom's here. I have a couple questions, but the first one's about Appendix B in the proposed plan, which you authored, Tom. So, sorry, that's from 2024 originally, so you might want, yeah, I'm glad you have it. And I'm not sure you can answer my questions, Tom, but my overarching question is if we're going to recommend adoption or approval of this plan for adoption in the comp plan, and I did not catch this the first go around, but Appendix B seems to be a draft of several amendments or revisions to the ordinance, both 97 and a little bit of zone. And for one, it talks about requiring a payment of fee in lieu. It changes the terminology, the wording in 9738 a little bit, such that it says when a proposed subdivision or land development is submitted under the terms of Chapter 112 of the Borough Code titled Zoning, a recreation fee in lieu shall be provided. That's on page A18. Sorry, Tom. So that is a little different, but significantly different from 9738 in the code, which says a dedication of land shall be required, and then you go on to say, or you can pay a fee in lieu. This is requiring a fee in lieu. It feels like this was written when we were exploring that option of just saying, hey, let's just make a fee in lieu, which we talked about with Tom Esty, and then that went away because it was being not consistent with the end.
Right.
Can you bring up that page of whoever printed this out for me, printed every other page by appendix?
Clinton, can you, Appendix A, I don't know what page in the PDF, it's way down. No, you got the plan open.
Oh, yeah.
So if you just scroll down mostly towards the bottom,
It's the third page from the end.
there you go. And yeah, it's A18. Yeah, keep going all the way down. Yeah, almost there. That's Appendix A. Yeah, Appendix B, now you're going. So page 18. So keep going down. Oh, okay. So that one does. Oh, wait, that is it though. So scroll up just a little bit. Sorry. Right there. So if you zoom in on to the right hand, all right, go right. Yeah, there you go. Now right there in the middle, 9738 recreational area and facilities payment of fee. So at the end, it says a recreation fee in lieu shall be provided. And that's a little different than our code, which currently states, so it says,
So Matt,
yeah, go ahead.
where are we about to say?
Right, right at the top, right there, yep.
If I may.
Yes,
I think
definitely.
the origin of this was some time ago, Tom drafted something, I believe, without a memorandum, which our office reacted to and said, as you indicated, the municipality planning code does not permit you to require a fee.
Right.
And so the fact that this is in there, I don't think is that significant. We still have to follow the law. I would put it in terms of we can draft an ordinance such that someone is encouraged to pay the fee.
Sure, sure. No, good.
Just to throw in, when I was talking with the people that wrote this plan, they were putting that in as a suggestion, not as a requirement.
Right, so there's that. That's the first. I wanted to highlight just a couple things in this appendix. So there's that, which reads differently from the current code, which we kind of addressed. There is also, it includes dimensional requirements or changes to NC3, which I didn't go back and check, but I think it might have to do with private passive recreation space. We're doing a couple, I guess my point is, we're doing a couple different things here in Appendix B, which are all proposed, drafted. We've discussed some of them. We didn't discuss all of them. There's also in article, if you go down, Clinton, to the end, right there, Appendix A, article, design standard changes. please refer to the following 8 pages for the recommended changes, then there's no other pages. My overall impression is that if we're adopting this plan into the comp plan, Appendix B seems to be not appropriate, because it seems very unfinished, draft ideas, things that haven't been really fleshed out yet. And so my opinion and one of my conditions I would think for recommending approval is to just get rid of Appendix B, pull it out. We keep it as an artifact and point of discussion going forward, something to talk about and use as a basis for changes. But I don't know that it belongs in this plan as part of the comp plan.
I
That's
agree with you 100%. I didn't realize, I was looking at your reports, I didn't realize that they took a memorandum and they folded it into an appendix. And Tom already stated, what he and Kristen, about that.
right.
So
And I remember seeing some of this back 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago.
yeah,
and
so
talking
I
about it.
agree with you. It's not right to be in.
Okay. All right, well, it's good to have your take on it too, Tom, thank you. So that's first. The second thing, and Aaron, thank you for sending that We Can Serve website, which would have, I'm not saying this sarcastically, it would have been great to have before we met with the plan consultants, because I learned a lot reading that article in terms of what recreation plans should look like, private space being acceptable. There's a lot of details in there that I just didn't know. Part of that sent me on a little bit of a search too. And I guess after reading that and going back through our code and then looking at the plan again, there's a specific section in the plan that says we need to develop concise criteria for parkland dedication. Basically saying we need to define what parkland looks like for us and all the different details. But then if you look at the We Can Serve website, you look at our code, it says you should find those standards and criteria in the plan. And so I would have liked to have asked our plan consultants, why are you pointing, why aren't the concise criteria in the recreation plan? I would have, after having digested this more and understand the process a little more, I would have expected there to be more concise criteria in this plan for us. Good.
That would be what they're recommending is that second part. They're recommending certain things that they go into the solid urban, go into zoning and make changes, but not telling you specifically what those changes are, because it's going to be up to you to determine what you're going to be accepting as park space. So you don't get that 5-foot wide piece of unusable property that's running along a road where you don't get a retaining wall.
Yeah.
For your, your open space, your park space.
Right.
Because unless you want to, really get some lawsuits, you don't want them swimming in a retention pond.
Right. I understand that. I thought they did all this work to identify what the public wants to see, what our parks already have, what they need. And the other articles and publications I've read say that should be in your plan. Well, if it's not in our plan, it says you should develop that yourselves, but there are consultants. Bottom line is, it doesn't matter. They didn't do it. It's not in our current plan. If maybe it's in a phase 2, maybe it's programmed for a phase 2, maybe it's done as part of the cost estimating process. I don't know. But I would have, in thinking, I would have liked to have asked them why that's not, because I would have expected it to be in there after having read all these different, references. So.
On your website, I sent it to you today. So.
Right, and I was not, and that's why I meant I wasn't being sarcastic or blaming. I could have easily found it not easily. I could have tried to find something like that myself. But having gone down that rabbit hole now, I'm like, well, I actually expected a little bit more out of this plan in terms of giving us that criteria. They did all this great work in terms of surveying our public and evaluating our existing parks, telling us people don't want to bike here, they want to bike away from here. So give us that criteria. That's what I would have asked, but they're not.
To your point,
Yeah.
when we were reviewing the request made of Borough Council, when Eli Kahn was proposing repurposing Rich's gym.
Right.
John Long, he asked me to look at the 17 items in the Saldo to see if the narrow strip of land along Wallerton Alley met those. So I went through and there were maybe 3 or 4 that were on point
Yeah.
that it didn't meet. Then when Eli proposed the grass strip on the east side of Franklin Street, repurposing Rubenstein's, he first came up with this very elegant landscape plan.
Mhm.
Then in the revised plans, it was just a sod strip with a fence. And the planning commission said, wait a minute, should we recommend that as a rec fee space, a viable recreation space? And again, the planning commission said, no, it's not a viable recreation space. So what Matt's asking about and what Aaron just said is that as a next step, somebody has to go look at those 17 criteria, make them 15, make them 19, whatever, with the planning commission's wisdom to say, what did we learn from Franklin Street, Walton Alley, whatever, where we would say yes or no to Borough Council to accept land for the recreation space.
Right, and I should have noted, and I did, that was kind of like my next point, we do have 17 criteria that obviously haven't provided enough support to say no, or it has provided, but it hasn't gotten us what we wanted. So we do need to review and refine those. So yeah, so they're there. I was just thinking the plan would have a little more guidance or more specific criteria that we could add. But that, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a condition of my recommendation for approval or any motion I would make, but I wanted to at least discuss that.
Well, it's a good catch. I do feel as though we're discussing fee and lieu in rec space as a, let's solve this kind of problem, which would, I think, lead us to an examination. You know, condition of consent, you know, whether when we get to a place where we can afford to do it, you know, we'll do it. Or, I mean, that if this all comes together. So I appreciate it. So I think it's a good catch. I don't know if it has to be part of this, you know, what we're doing here.
I would agree.
Okay.
Definitely on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm taking notes of this thing, so. I'm sorry, I'm not talking about it, but taking notes on this so we know what to bring up for future, for what we need to put in line to get stuff done. So we need to work on grants for getting more time to redo the zoning and Saldo.
Yeah.
And then we'll do that. And that's part of what this is for.
Okay.
That's why we can't get into some of the other stuff that being requested yet, because it's going to take a lot. I'm not wrong in saying this, am I? Stressing. I think it's a nice chunk of change. It's going to make it help rewrite the Saldo.
Well, it depends what the scope of that project is. I mean, I think if we're just focused on the rec space provision, the fee and lieu, it's obviously a smaller question.
I thought there were a couple other things in this plan that they wanted
Yes.
us to look at too. So
Well, that's actually a little further down on the agenda, which we will get to. Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
It just seems to me that,
I'm
you
sorry.
know, we've been talking about this fee and lieu issue for years. So
You're not wrong.
it might be prudent to pull that out and
Yeah.
try to resolve it. I think you've said that.
I'm with you 100%. 100%. Sheila,
I agree with everything that you said earlier, that this, I think that we do need some prices somewhere in there, that's
who's needs?
some dollar amounts.
Yeah.
Really matter, and
Yeah.
when, you know, I'm coming from council, so
Yeah.
that's my big perspective at this point,
Yeah.
but I'll get better. But when there's no dollar amount, it doesn't matter, and, you know, sure, like, we would approve whatever, if you guys approve it, we approve it, so I think it's prudent that we take our time, make sure that everything is really legitimate and legal and right, and that we have everything, all the ducks in a
Yeah.
row.
It's its own topic. Definitely, we need to examine all things that
we need some of that to take to council, and I think that our job, again, coming from council, is to explain to council what is legally allowed, what we have taken care of, what we can really make happen, and what we can't. Because there's a lot of discussion on council that's very emotional and very opinionated, and it would be very helpful if we spell out very clearly
Yes.
whether we're talking about the dollar amounts that we're going to possibly need, or the specific rules as to what
Yeah.
we're going to allow.
I think it makes it a much more serious document with the price tag.
Yes.
Great.
And I think everything I just said applies to the fee and lieu as well. We need specifics, we need it all
Mhm.
clearly spelled out.
Yeah. Report. Yeah, thank you. Quincy, did you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what she said, gotta fill in the unfinished business. Similar to what Matt said, the appendix B does seem a little like unfinished.
Yeah.
And kind of, I don't know, it's getting prices in there, and yeah, I want to see price tags.
Yeah.
And I want to see prices for everything, not even rec space, but yeah.
So, Matt, we've been sort of have two buckets here. This is a condition of our recommended condition of approval, and this is our recommended approval. Where do you put appendix B?
I would make that a condition for me. I mean, I'll make a motion, I guess.
Oh, would you
If you'd
please?
like.
Oh, well, that would.
I would move.
Can I just say one thing
Yes.
before that? And perhaps I'm mistaken, but when I was here in December, I think the consultant representatives made it clear that they weren't making any changes to this plan. And I got the impression that it was because they weren't getting paid any more money. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought I heard.
Way too practical.
Yeah, I guess.
So you can put that in the recommendation, but
Yeah, I mean,
be forewarned.
I would still, I think removing appendix B, there's literally two references, maybe a third in the text. So if they can't get that done for cheap,
And
I don't know.
if memory serves, they were specifically referring to the county's comments. When questioned whether they would make the changes in the county letter, they said no. So,
I don't, you do remember that, okay. I don't remember that specifically, but those were, in their defense, those were fairly extensive editorial comments, very structural, a big reorganizing of the plan, which I actually very much agree with. They said they wrote it repetitive in the way they did for a reason. I think it's mainly because it was boilerplate and it was the cheapest way to go.
Yeah.
But bottom line is the county definitely recommended a lot of changes. So I would love to make that a condition of our approval, but I don't think I don't know that that's our role.
You're making very good points.
Those are advisory.
Okay.
And so I think removing appendix B is an easy one and low hanging fruit for me. So I would move to recommend approval of the plan with one condition, and that is that appendix B and all references there to would be removed. Also with the following recommendations, and I'm trying to think how to phrase that cost estimates, that the next phase of the plan include cost estimates and a review of the standards and criteria for dedication or for dedicated parking. Something to that effect. I can type that up. I'm also trying to think it through. Does that make sense? Let me write that.
Okay, is there a second?
Hold on, I think.
Sorry?
Let him type it up.
And while he's typing it up, Just have to fill in the blank. Because you can't pass the resolution without filling in the date.
This is the borough's resolution, this is council's
Yeah,
resolution.
also,
I'm sorry, in the fourth paragraph, there's a blank date.
Yeah, but I mean, this is not the planning commission's resolution, this is draft of the council. So we'll fill in that date before this is fine. We have to fill in tonight's date too.
Okay.
yeah, I'm trying to type it up a little. Okay. Let's try this again. So I'm moving to recommend approval of the plan with one condition and two recommendations. The condition is that appendix B and all references thereto be removed. And the recommendations include as part of future phases of the plan or as part of future phases of development of the plan, cost estimates for all recommended improvements and O&M be developed, and specific standards and criteria for future dedication of parkland be developed. That's.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Got something on. Any comments from the public? None. Okay.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I think so. Matt, you want to vote? Let's just go on.
Sure, yeah, aye.
Sure.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Passes 5-0. We move on from the park. It's done. Okay. Move on to the second item under old business, which is the motion to approve the December 2025 meetings. Was a new. Did I send you the wrong spelling?
No,
Okay.
no, I think
All right. So.
Tom was looking at an old version of that. It was-
I see. Okay.
I had no
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to the real fun stuff, the PC procedures. And I'm gonna repeat what I said at the work session meeting. Let's make 2026 the year we have good procedures and we follow them. This is just would be pretty wonderful if we could do something like that. So I think actually we sort of need an expression of acceptance or rejection on each one of these individual points, but making motions and all, this thing could go on forever. So this is what I'm proposing as a procedure. I made some very obvious changes, which I'm just going to walk everybody through. At the conclusion of every one of these, I'm going to look to see if the hands are in the air. There's some that are just absolutely obvious, and others that are just, are going to require a little discussion. But then let's still do the hands up, and at the very end, theoretically, we'll have a document with changes that everybody agrees on. We can then make a motion, and that, you okay with that? Okay, good. All right, so obviously, at the bottom of every page is a date that this has been approved. I am pushing for today's date because we are going to do this tonight. Okay, so everybody good with this? Okay. The duties, so I'm all the way on to page 2, because I think much of it is sort of mandated to us by the state, but under the secretary duties, he has been preparing a quarterly and annual planning commission report, and we were not aware of the fact. A year ago, we were not aware of the fact that we had to do such a thing. So now that we know we need to, I'm feeling like it should be included in these responsibilities. Are you good with this? Okay.
Yes.
I'll let you work out. Huh?
No, I'm already doing it.
Matt loves it.
Let's make it official
Loves
for
it.
the next person.
Okay. On page 3, I just don't want there to be any confusion. So throughout this, the meeting that we're having today is either referred to as the voting meeting or the voting session or the regular meeting or the regular session. And I think we should just have one name that we use. So I am just saying, let's call this the voting meeting and changing the name to it in item C there and all references there too. You guys okay with this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we have, what we run into here, I'm sorry.
Item C1.
I was just gonna say the
That's the
same
only
thing.
one I know needs to be fixed.
Is now
I assumed he was gonna get to that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you didn't have done?
Good shots. Good shot, guys. Way to catch it.
Nobody did on that easy. Okay,
So
so
that fruit's almost on.
obviously, as we move,
I was like, oh,
Let Sheila have one.
as we move to having meetings the first Monday and the second Monday of the month, obviously that needs to be corrected in the language here.
May I suggest that you change it to the monthly meetings would be established at the organizational meeting each year. So if you end up changing it, you don't have to change these procedures.
It is on the website incorrectly. It's like this on the website. I don't know if
I'm sorry.
on, like, if,
On Tuesdays.
yeah,
We haven't changed them yet. We have,
We have to
vote on it first.
okay. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do Tuesdays. You're on Mondays. Okay.
All right, so if we move to this 7-day lead time is going to be difficult in relationship to the submission time. Where was that? There was like, you couldn't execute. You had to have, I can't remember here. I'm suggesting we change it to 3 days, that I C2, written notice of the meeting shall be provided to each member 3 calendar days prior to the date of the meeting, because you're required to submit the material on Thursday, but we're going to send people a notice 7 days ahead of time. We're essentially telling them there's a meeting, but we're not telling them what the meeting's about. So I don't know if where are you looking at that one? I'm on C2. Yeah. All right, so if you look down at 7, it says deliberations of the planning commission will be based on information supplied to it before the deadline 4 p.m. on Thursday. Okay, so if you're getting the meeting a week ahead of time, but you're getting the information.
Well, so hold on, just
Yeah.
finish that sentence though. 4 p.m. on the Thursday preceding the work session meeting. This has been my bucket proof. That's under the regular meeting. We're supposed to have things a week and a half before our regular meeting. Not the Thursday before the voting meeting, which we're calling now the voting meeting.
Yeah.
It's the Thursday before the working meeting. Even at the voting meeting, we're not supposed to be deliberating on anything that wasn't received before the Thursday before the working meeting. So it's, in theory, we're supposed to have like 10 to 11 days to review stuff,
Yes,
materials. Now, I'm not saying that's ever going to actually happen because it never actually has.
this is the year.
Right, so I don't know that that's one of my comments. That's not realistic because it just never happens. So, Aaron, you have a thought?
Well, this, I control, like, it's up.
Well, right, but
So if you don't want to be voting on anything that hasn't gone through the working session, then I won't allow anything to go forward that hasn't gone through the working session.
right,
Unless it's a special occasion, something monumental comes up and it has to go.
yeah,
But you always have to have that caveat. If something monumental, need your opinion on it.
it's good to have it as a guide. It's just wholly unrealistic based
So
on.
here's the thing, if we get somebody like 6:15, 6:17, the last time, I didn't know this existed, but also they contacted us before the voting session and asked to be able to speak. I put them on because they were there before the Thursday before. Now that I know this, it has to be 10 days before, I can schedule them for that next month, that next working session. And then you would have that stuff 10 days before your regular meeting. Now, you didn't have to vote on anything like that. You could have had all the paperwork and all stuff. So this is something that may not, I can't speak for anybody else before me, but I can speak for me. I didn't know this existed, or I would have already been doing this.
So here's the thing that I'm concerned about, is that, the clock, all right, the 90-day clock, it starts at the first meeting of the planning commission following the submission to building and housing. Now, we can decide we're not gonna put it on the agenda. That doesn't mean the clock didn't start. It still starts because the meeting took place. So we have, I think that first period of time needs to be 3 days, 2 of which are weekend, because otherwise you open yourself up. I mean, I don't think people are gonna come in, well, maybe gonna come in at 4:30 on a Friday and put a 300-page submission on your desk and say, yeah, I know the meeting's Monday, and you know, so maybe they're,
Get on it.
well, I mean, you can say you can't get on there, that doesn't mean the clock doesn't start. I mean, if it's, but the rubber meets the road, is if you say it's incomplete, you can reject it and the clock is started. But that's the thing that we're not really in control. We think we're in control of all of it, but we're not really in control of it. And we are in a better position because at meeting early in the month, it allows us to actually vote finally on the same month as for council votes. It gives them 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that to after our recommendation. So there's that advantage to it. But I'm concerned that we have this exposure here that we're not in control of. I'm just trying to craft these things in a way that makes it so that we're not making exceptions, you know. But I mean, who among us has not had proposals that came at 3 o'clock the day of the meeting, or 10 o'clock in the morning? And we've certainly experienced that, and that's what we want to stop. We want to have a little time to consider it for work sessions. The way in which we execute work session really, I've always believed it should really be just an initial review of the planning commission. I've looked through it briefly. I am concerned about the parking. I'm concerned about the stormwater. I'm concerned about the height of the, and that a lot. And then theoretically, in my dreams, the applicant shows up, takes notes, and comes back and addresses those issues with some preparation, and we operate at a more professional level, not trying to embarrass anybody, giving everybody a chance to address the questions that they have, because otherwise the applicants come in here and they're saying, well, I don't really know what you want to know.
Right. And oftentimes, though, applicants come in for the work session to present all their stuff, and then don't attend the voting session for various reasons.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll come to the work session, take our comments, make changes that week, submit it in time for the voting session, that obviously doesn't comply with our
Right.
our stated procedures.
Yeah.
But in the interest of moving things along, we try to review them. And so I don't highlight this to say, we got to stick to this. I just don't think it should be in our procedures if we constantly break it. I think
Yeah.
there might be a better happy medium. Maybe it's 4 o'clock on the Thursday before each meeting, or maybe it's 4 o'clock on the Wednesday before each meeting. I don't know. I just wanted to highlight it as a thing that we often just ignore, but something that we could give to Aaron and say, hey, let's go by that. Let's stick to that. And then if there's an emergency, we acknowledge it and make a change. So.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm not married to this. I just try to, start the conversation.
Yeah.
So,
I think actually what you want to do will actually work, is replace this with the best of one Thursday meeting. That gives you the 3 days that you want. Because
you what?
But it has to be in the Thursday by 4 o'clock before each meeting, and then that gives you the 3 days that you want.
Yeah.
And that eliminates this so that you're not having a contradiction in your procedures.
Yeah, I guess if I were giving them two chances, I might say Wednesday. Because now we're meeting on Mondays. That's different than meeting on Tuesdays. I've already found that out. Having it come up the day after the weekend is a little more difficult.
I just have to have everything by Thursday at 4 latest. So if you would say Wednesday at 4, by all means, that would give you one more time to make sure you're doing it.
I mean, that would be my my proposed change would be 4 o'clock Wednesday before the work session, and then 4 o'clock Wednesday before the regular meeting.
I just want to
Yes.
put this out there. I just went through something very similar with council, and they really pushed out that nobody's allowed to bring anything to council without like extensive lead time. And I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just saying that they put that in there. So maybe it's less important because they have it there and they're more aware of it at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Well, I'll express my ignorance. I don't really know if council has a lot of the same situations that we do, but I mean, the law is designed so that an applicant knows that in 90 days he will get an answer, that's the obligation, unless he says, I want to give them more time.
So the
But
reason.
does that take place in other matters too?
So the reason this came out to council was the question about the Roberts Market parking lot and the low income housing proposition.
Yeah,
Right now.
yep, I remember that.
So they came in front of council without any of us knowing that they were coming. They walked in and they did this presentation. I don't even think I was there that day, and then I had to vote on it the next day, and I was like, what happened? It was chaos.
Yeah.
So that was, they absolutely jumped the line. They got themselves on the agenda. They didn't have any, they should not have been allowed on the agenda, but nobody on council was really aware of how this was set up. It's really set up a formal thing, and it was disjointed and things weren't lining up. And so I think buttoning this up is really good, but there's other things like that. You know, the squeaky wheel just gets on agendas in there, and sometimes it's really inappropriate. And
I think one key difference, as you noted, Sheila, is you guys go back to back.
Right.
We have a week apart, and things happen in that week for us, usually, whether something new comes up or changes occur from the work to the voting session. So
we have a week. We do go back to back for those two, but it's really a week because the committees are where the decisions are really made, which is the week before.
So who sets the agenda for the borough council meeting?
So it comes from the different department heads and then,
Yeah, it's usually, what happens is we sit down with Sean and we say, these are the things that these are the things that are being carried over from last time. These are the new things that have come up that we need to go on. He writes up the agenda that's sent to the department head. The department head reviews it, if they have something to add or they don't want something, say that. At which point we either pull them off or we add it to it if they see fit. And then anybody who wants to have any kind of attachment has to be in Thursday at 5,
Okay, so
or excuse me, Thursday by.
the reason that I asked that question was that the difference here is that the agenda is the responsibility of the chair. So
So it's also.
he submits the agenda to building and housing and it gets distributed, as opposed to, I would imagine Sean puts together the agenda for borough council.
So the individual chair for the different committees work with the department heads to set the agenda.
Okay.
But then goes to Sean, so
Yeah.
they meet and discuss it.
Yeah.
So it's similar. There's this chair and the department head, like this relationship. But that's the week before.
But when push comes to shove,
Chair gets it.
the chairperson is the final, an item should or shouldn't be on the agenda, the chairman's position on the matter carries.
And not new council, I mean, if
I don't know what, it doesn't matter, I was just asking.
Generally speaking, I can't speak for Mary, I can speak for building and housing,
Yes.
working with Nicole, she's the only one I've worked with.
Yeah.
It always came down that they would listen to what I said, most of the times it was what I recommended.
Yeah.
But there were a couple times that it was just, this needs to be done, you know. They wouldn't tear the Band-Aid off quick instead of easing it off. So at that point, it came down to the chairperson making a determination of what the chair wanted to do. And then I don't know whatever happened afterward. But it generally, because it is their committee, we always let them, they have the final say, just like with Jim and I. Jim submits it, and then I make some recommendations to separate things that come in. And then he makes the final determination as to whether or not they got their stuff in time or he wants to do it. It's not. Because there might be 2 or 3 things that are similar, and you may want to keep them separate, for one reason or another. So it always comes back when I'm dealing with people to the chair of the committee, because they're the ones that control and have the overall picture of what that committee is supposed to do. But it's
So the reason I'm stressing this point is that years and years ago, people, we would, somebody other than Jim was the chairman, we would go into meetings and always have a meeting with the head of housing and code enforcement before, 3-4 days before, we go through the agenda, talk through what's on it. And at the meeting, things would suddenly disappear from the agenda, or they would suddenly appear on the agenda. And so this does not work. Somebody's in charge. Let's put down who's in charge, and there can be a lot of meetings and a lot of conversations, but ultimately, one person needs to say, this is on, this is off, and
Jim makes that determination.
Jim makes that determination. We've tried to put that in place, and that's something I feel strongly about because it was really difficult to operate.
Him and I have a pretty good
But we have to operate this as though
I understand.
anybody could be in either position.
I think, in my opinion, it should be Jim makes the final decision because he is the person. He's basically responsible for you guys, so.
Yeah, I mean, the procedures up above A4 do say the chairperson shall submit an agenda to the Department of Building, Housing, and Code
Yes.
Enforcement. So, yeah, I think the procedures reflect what you want to see, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure you're not.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
other thing I would really add is if somebody came to me and I had problems about, hey, these guys came to me and presented this to you, what they want to general. Would make a determination.
But you would have to
Excuse
do
me
that
for interrupting.
before the Wednesday.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
I just want to say, I always appreciate when Thomas Stewart's is filling stuff. Because you're real, I was wondering, had the Eagles won last night? I don't think.
Now, I'm throwing all my Eagle stuff out.
Well, that's a true feeling.
No more, he's no more.
Who are the Eagles? I don't know. It's an old rock group, isn't it?
Yeah, right, exactly. See, it's on.
They had a lot more success.
Yeah, they did.
We won a Super Bowl, guys, it's okay.
Where did we leave did we leave Wednesday 4 p.m. as what we were all sort of agreeing to, or? Because I'm not stuck on any particular day. I want what the group
I
wants.
say let's grab that extra day that we're losing since we're moving to Mondays.
And
Okay.
we're doing 2 Wednesdays.
And yeah, I would do both. I would do 2 days. Well, both, that same requirement under each meeting for each week.
Okay, so then, 3 calendar days, we good with this? Yes. I'm talking about, C2, from 7 to 3 calendar days. Notice to,
Sure.
okay, that requires on Friday, okay. I thought that moving the HARB and the HARB report and the,
Zoning hearing.
yeah, to the work session really kind of was a nice balance, and we're gonna be a little bit later on these things than before, so I'm suggesting that under F, that move to work session for both,
I'm gonna add the zoning hearing board right to the list.
yep,
Yeah.
zoning hearing board and HARB.
C3F.
Okay, and then the same thing with E1, the next page, E1, the first Monday of the month preceding the voting meeting. Then on E3, adding HARB and the zoning hearing board that we just discussed. These are just language changes. Under moving down to 6B preliminary plan. This is where I would like to add to it the language on number 1, that the commission shall receive 2 copies of the plans and the fully executed application summary. So this is a pet project of mine that I've been trying to get on 7, 8 years, something like that. And it's simply a 1-page cover sheet for every Saldo application. It simply says, where's the location? What type is it? Is it final? Is it preliminary? Is it whatever, sketch plan? What is the applicant's name? What's the date it was submitted? And what is the date that's going to be considered at the planning commission meeting, and the deadline for the planning commission's recommendation, and the deadline for borough council to approve it. So this is something Aaron and I have talked about briefly, and then where was the application? To whom was the application sent? The Pannoni, the town committee, to the county. It's the whole list of all the people who support us. Who got an application? When did they get the application? So we will know the progress, because so often I've gone to it and we don't even know if it's preliminary, final, we don't, there's just so much of it. When is the next borough council meeting? And it's just really silly stuff. So fundamental overview of the project, and I'm suggesting we add this into, I think it's been in there before, and
Where's that going now? I'm sorry, where did you say you wanted us to do that?
6B1, just added to 2 copies of the plans and the fully executed application summary.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
Says that you're gonna be received 2 copies of the plans. You want them in paper, or do you want them computerized?
I'm okay with computerized. I mean, I think that's,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we usually review electronic now.
Yeah,
Jim will print it out sometimes.
So it's like, there's one
But-
determination, has to just take computerized one, sure. If you feel that there's a purpose for you to have paper plans,
Not for me.
then we can make it, so I'm asking that question, when you do this, it's more clear.
so the application itself for your office, will you get a paper plan?
You can ask, we will ask for it if it's larger. Particularly if it's something that we have to keep on site for someone to review.
Because they're sometimes very hard to read on the, I
Yes.
mean, there are people who do this all day long. This is what they do as in their trade, and they're very accustomed to it. Others, I struggle with it sometimes. So I would love for there to be some sort of backup where we could, if we run into that thing, we could make an appointment and just take the plans and sit in here or the conference room,
Yeah.
wherever,
There'll
and
be a desk set up.
look at a real paper copy. So I wouldn't want to eliminate that, but I'm fine with moving this.
So this just doesn't tell us which way, if you want to have 2 copies of the paper plans, one
You might, well,
computerized, make that change. I have to follow it.
So you're suggesting we 2 copies, 1 electronic, 1 hard copy or paper copy?
2 paper plans and a computerized plan. The computerized plan is incidental. They can set up a Google Drive or whatever, but you don't share it with us. They can put it in as a submission, but this would take up to 200 gigabytes submissions. So it's quite a while. Submission. But, you know, we're always gonna have to computerize one, but I would say paper plans.
good. Are we all okay with all of this?
Sure.
Everybody? Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, just thought it was a good.
I'm sorry?
Sorry to interrupt, just thought it was a good idea to clarify that.
I'm sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to.
Oh, no, no problem. All right, then the same thing on the final plan on second to the last page, C1, fully executed application summary. Because sometimes the final plan comes in a year after the initial plan.
Sometimes longer.
Yeah. Okay with that? Okay, moving on to C4. They talk about the PDF copy on a disk. Assume it isn't a floppy disk, but I don't really know.
We prefer not to have that.
So I'm just crossing out on this. And, okay, so that really wasn't just the obvious one, so let's just go around the table. Anybody have anything else that they want to add? Steve?
I really like the idea of a checklist. It's a cover sheet
Yeah,
checklist.
okay. And it's really helpful to make outside. Matt?
The only other thing I had was, do we want to include here a link to our meeting website now, since we have one in our procedures? So it's
A link to our what?
our meeting website.
Oh,
That's where we post everything. It's not here. If you're sending a new PC member one-stop shopping for what we do,
oh, yeah, okay.
it might be a good place to house a link just
Okay.
listed on our procedures. It could be under meetings, under procedure, under the, I was thinking 4A. That would be where it would go, 4A9.
That's a good suggestion.
So that was it.
Okay. Sheila, did we take all your big ideas?
My ideas took all of them.
I'm sorry. All right,
I'm strong with that too.
okay, great.
I agree, that is a nice brief
Good.
beginning.
I'm happy to hear that. Is there a motion to approve all the changes we've just made?
You just made a note.
Motion to approve. All the changes we made.
Great. Steve, okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye, okay. Moving on.
Are there any public comments?
Oh,
No, okay.
sorry.
No.
Oh,
I snuck in behind
Came
you.
back.
Came back.
Oh, my God.
I thought you came back to comment on it.
That's it, I can't even blow it all out of the water.
Yeah. Procedure. Not so much. All right, moving on, to the election of officers. And as we discussed at the work session, I think we just put forward a slate that includes all of the existing, officers, to retain their duties for, 2026. And,
Seconded.
okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
That's
Okay.
not the vote on who's gonna get stuck with being leaders on the docket.
Yeah.
What?
That's right.
The best time to vote on who's getting stuck with being the leader is when they're not here.
Yes.
And that includes Thomas Doherty as the PAR representative from Peace Planning Commission.
Yes.
correct?
I discussed it with him and he's
Okay,
okay with
just making
doing
sure.
it. I talked to him about the fact that Aaron would be, collecting the notes and possibly covering them, but if he's here, he could do it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a report on Harv, and who does it is, it can change. All right, moving along to new business C. It is hard to imagine rec space or payment of fee in lieu could be considered new business, but somehow we
It
found a
wasn't
way,
last month.
we found a way
Yeah.
to do that. I feel like we have sort of talked about it, and I think, not a lot of work's been done on this, and if you can sort of, tell us what you need, I think we're anxious to get going. You,
Understood.
okay, great. And the preservation, ordinance, I had a discussion with, Thomas, who is out of the country, and, he would really like.
Which Thomas, there's three of them that are.
There's only one Thomas. There's two Thomas.
Okay, two Thomas.
The other guy is Tom, he is Thomas.
Okay.
Thomas Doherty.
I'll be Tomas.
Okay, so we're gonna move that along to next one. The Saldo zoning ordinance review update. So this is something where you all got some homework to do, and I'm anxious to hear what you have to say. I touched on a couple of the things that I thought were important, and just to remind you, I think we're really just tonight trying to make a list. And from the submissions that I got, which I will explain in just a minute, it is obvious the course we need to take here. So I'm just going to start this by saying, talking about minimum lot size. We revised it when the new zoning came in to be median, and yet we say repeatedly, the kind of houses that people love in Westchester, you cannot build today because you couldn't build them. They're not within the scope of the ordinances. So I think just looking at that probably makes some sense. Tom introduced the whole question of setbacks for buildings in excess of 45 feet. I will tell you that the reference that he gave us at that meeting, I don't think it was correct. I think it's 11233, 1B7C1. But that's 15 foot at 15 feet setback for buildings 35 to 50 feet. It's number 2 on the list. I thought Tom was very passionate about making it clear point. The next thing that occurs to me is that, and I've mentioned this in meetings, is that we have, I cannot think of an application in which clear sight triangles were not one of the conditions, and if they're gonna be a condition every single time, then maybe there's something wrong with our ordinance, and I think it's worth some examination, because honestly, I believe it's very dangerous to drive in the borough because sight lines are terrible in many cases. So I think maybe an examination of this whole issue might benefit us.
What was the ordinance that you gave me? It was 112 what?
This refers to, what he was referring to was the old ordinance. So we should bring back and cited a number that really wasn't. Ordinances change and the numbers change, so he may have been, I'm not saying he was wrong, but when I went back and looked in my ordinance book, it had nothing to do with setbacks, so I found the reference. And this is to the old zoning, that's why you're not gonna find it in the current zone. But his point is, it's missing. It's something, it's an oversight. And we should look back at this reference and see if we can make, if we should make some adjustments. That he felt as though the Indigo Hotel was successful and that it succeeded because of the setbacks that they utilized, among other reasons, and that we should consider that. So I'm just putting it on the list. Putting it on the list doesn't really mean much of anything. All right, so I want you to know that our leader, Sherry, provided me his list. He didn't quite finish his list. It's 16 pages long. And it's
Not sure
It
you
is-
totally understood the assignment.
yeah. Either I didn't understand it or he didn't understand. This is
Called guilt for not being here.
his baby, but you can see, he highlighted and circled, and I will not take the time. I think this should be made available to all of you. Have you gotten this? Did you get
He
this?
did not copy everybody, he
Okay.
copied you and I.
Okay, then I will send it to you so that everybody will have a chance to review, because where this is going, I think is, we gotta hear from everybody, and this is gonna take some time to consider. So, but I would like to just go around the room and say, these are the things that I think maybe we should have a look at. Now, keep in mind, after this, we're talking about the old things that we still have not attacked, and so we're not looking for work necessarily, and I think it's important to. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I did not fully do my homework, but I did write some things down. Some general notes, which included with language throughout, procedures, which we covered today, zoning hearing board agendas, which we'd also cover today.
Yeah.
And then building setback, which has been a topic recently, and yeah, so
Are you
I
talking about the build to line?
build two line,
Okay,
build two line.
okay. I think we dealt with that,
But
didn't
that,
yeah, I think we did, yes.
That's already the ordinance.
Yeah, that's-
okay,
That's why I was
It'll
asking
be in the
about.
annual report.
because we talked about it last week, and I was short. But yeah,
Okay,
I'll do a more deeper dive. Come back.
okay. Steve?
So, did you say that Tom mentioned that setback line in town center from Hotel Indigo, that it was removed from the ordinance?
Yeah.
And I really think that setback and, that Walnut Street and Gay Street has become, very much de facto the center of town. There's a lot of activity that happens there. A couple of new restaurants, the Westchester Seafood Restaurant.
Yeah.
It's really a bright spot. Whenever I mentioned about the the planning commission, and what the planning commission does. I use that as an example of how that symmetry and how that fits into the street and how, you know, really that shines a light on the great work that everybody does. You're saying that is in the ordinance?
Tom said, Tom Cometa
Yes.
said it's not, that it disappeared when we redid the zone.
Do we, and you're saying that it's not?
Tom Cometa's suggestion is that we reconsider putting it back into the.
Okay, so it is missing. Well, then I would consider it, because I think that's really a bright spot.
Keep in mind what you guys have already done. So if you have a go-to line, then if it's over 40 or over 60, then it has to, or if it's over 40, it has to be 10-foot setback, which is already going to achieve what you're doing. If you go up again and come back in another 50 feet, you're really taking out a lot of space. So what the idea behind what you do with that 10-foot setback, what Thomas wanted to see, was to allow light down and not make it into a canyon.
Right.
To set things back. So I don't have a problem with you reviewing that one and looking at this one, but make sure you already have something in the town center district that allows for you to take those larger buildings and move them back in and not have those offset spaces, and it'll get more light, more open space, more wind. Not wind necessarily, but more air movement through, so that you get more, it becomes more pedestrian friendly.
So we don't need to
I'm not
review
telling you
because
whether
we
you
have.
think you
No, we should still review.
review it.
But in the context of the current ordinance, recently revised,
Yes.
for the go-to line.
Keep in mind,
Which is up to a
you're
setback.
taking steps towards that.
Towards street level. But we can review that recent revision to the setback in the context with this. Okay, well, go tell me to go.
I say this at my own peril, but there was a concept in Boyer's what was called step back. In other words, once the building reached a certain height, you had to step back the higher floors. And that's probably what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe when the ordinance was redone, that was accidentally omitted. I don't know.
Okay.
So there's a difference between the build-to line, the buildings.
When you're talking about the book.
Right, right, and then once it's an HO 45 building, it has to be 10 feet back. That's a different issue. That's in the ordinance now. But I think what he's referring to is step back, because that's the Hotel Indigo.
Yeah, and that's.
Step back.
There's no thing I'm saying with this main part of the chief, what we're looking for with that step back, with having moved back 10 feet off
Maybe.
of the property line. So before you go rushing into an older version, see whether or not you've already achieved that.
But it's still worth the discussion.
So, yeah, I'm not saying it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be, my main part, because of how aesthetically pleasing that is to look down Gate Street and then look down Wall Street as well.
Yeah.
And see the symmetry.
Yeah.
And, we are reset with South Owen with the zoning for, those types of, communities that Thomas's, ordinance, prescribes, like for, Burger King and wherever else they could, those small,
The unified residential.
unified.
development. Well, we just wrote that.
So, so that's reflected in, South Owen as well. There's no conflicts between that and what's in the zoning.
That's a use, that's not anything to do with salary, that's zoning.
Okay.
Those are two different things. It allows for you to use that use, and then that will just what is allowed inside that by the way you wrote it up.
Actually, there's no conflict with that, so. that's fine.
Okay, Sheila.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna tell you my thoughts anyway. So I try to, I'll get my head around stuff eventually, but
We're gonna go next month on this topic also, so I don't want you to feel pressed and, you're the newbie here, so you're
I'm
allowed,
like, there's
but
a
give them
lot.
a little grace period,
Give me some grace,
maybe
but
a month.
just 1 month, I'll be fine. 6 weeks. Okay, so the vibe on council was very much, they wanted to sort of limit the construction of these big monstrous buildings
Yes.
and encourage individual
Yeah.
homes. Great, we all love that, that would be whatever that. But I was always the one saying, build whatever, like if the builder wants to come in and make it more beautiful, I'll go for it.
Oh,
But from this seat, I might change my tune. So listening to people talking about setbacks and setbacks in the larger buildings and how we're managing those, if we go ahead and ask for both the setback and the step back, are we not sort of de facto asking them to consider building more individual homes rather than large scale projects? But would we also have to go into the lot sizes and allowing smaller lot sizes and all that? And then the sight lines were a massive pain for any of the roads run by PennDOT, because they don't let you put in stop signs in without deaths.
they don't let you do what?
Don't put in stop signs
Or paint.
or paint the road.
If it's a PennDOT road, you have to have a permit and approval from them to do virtually.
And you have to prove sightlines all the time. And it's a ridiculous feat. And
I'm just not following what you're talking.
okay, the roads that are highways,
Yeah,
right? So Price Street is highway.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. People who live in the borough want stop signs.
oh, I see, oh,
They
yeah,
want crosswalks. They can't have them.
that's,
And there are ways to get them, and to get them, you need to prove sightlines. Now, Price Street, Burger King proposal was an issue, or is an issue, will be an issue. Because we're not gonna be able to put in crosswalks for the pedestrians and get the cars out and do all of that. And I'm worried about the sightlines. I don't have any answers of what to do, but I think we need to be taking that into account. And we need to be helping pedestrians. But I don't know how, but I think we can. I think so. I'm very,
okay.
very optimistic.
So you're talking about pedestrian safety?
Yeah,
Traffic.
I think that we need to consider pedestrian safety while we're putting this all in the planning.
One of the things that's coming up in council to speak to that is, traffic calming
Yes,
strategies that they want to implore or apply, my words aren't good, so that they can start slowing down some of the traffic or keeping the traffic from being so straight and narrow so that people
Yeah.
can fly through.
Yeah,
They want to have certain traffic controls. Unfortunately, for a lot of them, I know that, Ms. Kearns did, come very many times to talk about a very specific, corner. And it took us 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get PennDOT to approve anything to be done, or even just painting the crosswalks. So part of, I think, what she's asking for is to kind of look at when we're looking at these sightlines and stuff, is think about some of the traffic calming strategies, and also taking into account what PennDOT's requirements are so that we can get through as quickly as possible. Forgive me if I'm not,
that is pretty much what I'm saying, yes.
because that's something you guys may not have known about, because it's usually at council level that they're talking about it. They haven't completely fleshed that out. Sean is working on those traffic control issues, to calm down traffic. And reduce speeding naturally without having to have so many stop signs and stuff like that.
Well, it's certainly a good fit with our mission to be a walkable community and, okay, well, it's a good observation.
And the building going up, if it ever does, at Burger King, on Price Street there were so many concerns about the traffic coming in and out. And the traffic study kept getting pushed in front of people. Oh, the traffic study seems fine. But I went to a lot of those private meetings and,
Yeah,
We hope we have a different approach at that location now.
well,
I don't mean,
I
it just
saw that
won't
it
be a
was,
big
it
building.
won't be a big building. I've seen
Hopefully.
that, but the fact that it got so far through and that particular intersection, I don't know, traffic calming is not perfect either, but I personally like it, but again, it's not necessarily. The point is, I want to ask us to think weirdly broader than,
No, it comes up on every review because, as Alan said at the outset, clear site triangles are almost always listed as a waiver required because wherever we build, we almost never have the actual space to allow for the mandated site distances a lot of times. That came up on Rubenstein, it's come up on Mitch's, it's come up on Burger King, for various reasons, all different reasons. It came up on Washington Street because oftentimes they're granted, sometimes we rework a corner if we can, but sometimes, like on Washington, we accepted it because it actually slows traffic down in the alley. So it's all context based. If there's already pedestrians in the area, if there's going to be more traffic, less traffic, every project's a little different, but it is often a waiver. Sometimes we're able to get rid of that, but oftentimes we're not. So,
and I'm okay with I go back to, I want everything to be new and pretty and shiny. That's awesome. Let's build it up everywhere. But are we taking enough steps to make sure that pedestrian traffic and just sort of human beings
yeah,
absolutely.
okay,
do that?
good point.
Do that.
Matt,
Well, it kind of, yeah, so that kind of dovetails with one of my comments, but I guess the first one that I had listed was spaces. We have lots of definitions for different kind of space, and this has come up in our discussions of the recreational fee in lieu and our definitions of private, public, open, recreational, green. And sometimes they get convoluted and used interchangeably when they shouldn't. So at least one thing I'd like to do is go through, check out the definitions, both in the Saldo and zoning, and then how they're used, particularly in certain sections of the code, and make sure they're being used correctly and not being misused or convoluted because we're going to need those good definitions, especially if we add a definition for like parkland or something, which I know Jim was in favor of. As we go forward with the rec fee and lieu issue, we're going to need to make sure our standards and our definitions are tight and clear and differentiated. Then I know Jim had a bunch of comments on 9738, which is our recreational land and facilities. That was one I highlighted for the same reasons. We're coming up on this issue. We're going to try to be revising this ordinance, and I think we need to make sure that what's there is clear and understandable before we go revising it, so that we're not using terms interchangeably and everything's kind of in order, and then we can work from there. One of the things is Appendix A, which is the design standards. I noticed that the photo of the rooftop pool at Chestnut Square and the section, Alan, that you finally got, it's still there in the current on the website. So I have to ask Jim about that. I did not receive a letter to Borough Council after that vote, and usually I'm copied on them. So I'm wondering if it got overlooked or whatever, but we voted on that. We passed that motion to recommend removal. Oh, they didn't accept it?
No, they didn't accept that.
Okay, so the change just hasn't been made, maybe.
Yes, and
Okay.
I don't know who's responsible. It might just be because I'm new and I don't know who's responsible for it.
Okay. Well, that's just something I noticed in my going going through this stuff. I was like, Alan will be so mad when I tell him tonight. So anyway, that needs to be done. But in general, those design standards, again, terminology, consistency with with the references in the code, just making sure those design standards are consistent. And 9738-2, I noticed is all about, there's a whole section, that's where our traffic impact studies requirements are listed. And 9738 is recreational land and facilities. So I have no idea why that's in there. It feels like it should be a totally separate section. But that's just a general comment. So those things, the spaces and 9738 were where I kind of focused my attention.
Great. So I'm not going to take the time to read through Jim's entire document. It's a little, if you could give it a little more consideration, we'll circulate it to everybody and they'll have a chance to digest it, and then it'd be good to have next month to have Jim back and we can go through the rest of this list. Thank you all for we often give homework assignments, but I appreciate the work that's gone into this. Do you have public comment?
Just to
Okay.
support your sight line
All right.
statement. We seem to waive it all the time, then why do we have the ordinance? And I agree with Sheila in that waiving all the time, I think, does compromise safety, and I've raised that on the.
Yeah.
The argument against where I position I have is, well, Westchester's always had these bad sight lines, so let's just, we want to keep the town looking like the town is, then we have to, there may be a happy medium there. So yeah, I think sight lines is a concern.
Okay, good, thank you. Then we'll count on your vote in favor. Okay. I am reminded that we need you all to fill out this financial responsibility. It can be sent via email back to Dana, right? And just a disclosure form that we just get asked to execute from time to time. And
Should be every year.
Every year.
what?
Every year.
That should be filed by May 1st, memory serves.
What?
Yeah, we got a little time. May
Yeah.
1st.
Has to be filed with the borough by May 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to fill out past due ones for Millville when I work there. We're usually really often.
Okay. Then moving on to the final issue, which is unfinished business, the parking lot issue. So I went in and redid it. So I made sure it was only 2 pages long. Hopefully that would make it a little more readable. So this is really kind of bigger issues, not very much day to day, but taking a larger view of our responsibilities here, because the day somebody walks in with a proposal to develop a piece of land, it's too late to do anything about these issues. We have to, and they don't. Problem is we deal with so much that there's urgency in this timeline too, that it's so easy to just let these things drift, and then all of a sudden we're in a spot, and that's just the reality. Okay, so I was just going to walk you through this to sort of give you a little background, and then I think what we're really talking about is at the next meeting. Let's put all of these on a list, and let's prioritize them in terms of needing our attention. So the first is historic building destruction abatement. So what we try to do is cite where in the comprehensive plan is this mentioned? And then what steps have we taken so far? And then in every case, this thing has hit a place where it just stopped moving. In the case of this, and I've said, you know, on a personal note, this is how I first started getting involved in the planning commission, because there were these two beautiful buildings on Minor Street, and the planning commission had just decided to allow the builder to destroy them. And that, well, you know, if you're gonna complain, you're not gonna get anywhere. If you join, maybe you can make something happen. So this is something, this is a pet project, but you know, it's once you just tear it down, it's gone forever. And I think a lot of what Westchester is all about is its charm, its historical fabric that is just you know, a true treasure that I think it's really what separates us from one of the many things that separates us from all of the other communities in this country. So in any event, what we were talking about, we were on the precipice of having this new survey done that Jane Dorchester did. She went through and surveyed every single property in the borough, and we were guided to move this back to the back burner while the survey is done. Well, the survey got done 2 years ago, but nobody ever really said it. It was supposed to be done 4 years ago or something. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And we forgot to check out. So I still think this is something we should address. It's a little bit of a complicated matter. That's why I provided the feedback that I did, but read through it, get a, you know, let's talk about this at the next meeting. Okay. East Corridor improvement. So this has to do with the East Corridor. There's actually been discussion about the North Corridor, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but entrance corridors were a key feature of the comprehensive plan, and they entailed, you know, what a wonderful impression you get currently going north into the borough, going south into the borough, going east into the borough, but maybe not so much going west into the borough, and which is a feed right off of 202, and it's a lot of people. And I was kind of surprised how could this wonderful town be at the end of this highly industrial, highly rugged commercial area. And at the time, it was put off because there were we had a borough councilman who was very much in favor of it, so we had some support going there. But it was deemed that there were other priorities that the borough had, that seeking the grant for this would be unwise, unrecommended, because the borough had other things that they prioritized over this. So I'm just bringing it up again. I think it's important. There's the item C, which is discouraging the new construction of buildings that are out of scale with the current streetscape. And at that time, I attached some visual examples, which I will find and reattach. I didn't do that, but we have some examples of out of scale architecture that's very old. This is a crime that gets committed a lot. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be aware of it and think about it. It's really not in the zoning as much as you probably think that it is. And again, I think the TLA is important. The golf course development, this is something that, currently, under the old zoning, I think it's still true, the golf course is NC1. And, if you follow the zoning, you could tomorrow bring in a plan for 66 homes on the golf course. And there's nothing we can do about it. They can do it by law. We want that to happen. There's a likelihood that it could happen. Golf I have no idea the financial condition of the golf course. I'm just saying that it's something that golf courses are struggling and financially, and it's a sport that is its future is a little dim. So I think it's something that we should give some thought to. There is such a thing as transfer of rights that could be done, worked out from the golf course to perhaps this area here, the eastern corridor. I don't know. There's a lot of potential solutions, but it's something I'm putting on the table. Allowing cottage courts. This is something that Thomas initiated, and I think it's worthy of consideration. And then there's the whole workforce housing. That was a group that was supposed to be formed with the university. Never happened. I don't think it happened. And so it hasn't really gotten very far. And I still hear it all the time. Why is it that the professor at the university, the cop on the beat, whoever, the teachers in the schools can't live in the borough, and isn't that wrong? Should something be done about it? And I made reference to this in my presentation on the university, but that's not the only solution. But by fee in lieu, we did accomplish the one thing, 97A, 1919. And, and then, so this was a list we were trying to keep going. And this is the one that Jim shared. We got a couple of different ideas adding to it, and Jim Cherry talked about wanting to examine is it possible to move the utility lines underground, and what would be needed in order to accomplish that. I really would love to have Jim and Thomas be here for these conversations, so I'm not gonna try to push an agenda. I think they would probably have things to add to the list at all, or opinions about these. I just open up the floor to any thoughts that you have about those topics. Okay, well, it is 8:22, and I completely understand. Let's see. Is there anything else that anybody would like to?
Just say about the east side corridor, it only begins
Right.
block on the other side
Yes,
of us, our location right now. Which is
Right.
Ocean.
at the tire store. Because of the tire store.
Yeah, halfway through the visitor side of Big Stadium is West Ocean Township, and one side is the borough. That's the line. Certainly all this out here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thought is you could just put some, well, the Westchester signs just down the road a little bit further, and maybe that's a problem solver. Just an idea.
We just approved adding welcome to Westchester sign only locations where they currently are.
Okay.
So that didn't happen.
In that section, you had about limiting or not allowing drive-throughs.
Not allowing drive-throughs?
Yeah, that section of reading about not allowing drive-throughs. That is more of a use. That would be more of a, that's an accessory. So it would be something we have to do, something change.
Okay. All right.
I do want to say one thing about that the expansion of the bid, I think is a good thing for this effort too, like it's coordinating effort with the bids doing on High Street and K Street and their expansion area. And you also have expansion of the Startup District. I'm tired, it's okay.
I'm not following it. The extension of the bid, because they just expanded the bid.
Right.
To cover.
It will help with, I think that they will be making efforts on the east corridor that are different, but I think them doing something will be helpful, taking those businesses that are over there.
Yeah.
And encouraging cleaning
For
up.
a further expansion.
They just had the expansion, and I think
They
it will
need to
help.
digest
All I'm saying is it will help.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah, I know.
it's gonna help a little bit.
Just so you know, also, we have written a number of citations for this corridor and the condition of the sidewalks. So we are working on fixing the sidewalks. The only reason we hadn't done it earlier is because we had 2 sections of our own sidewalk. That fixed before you guys.
Everything you would like?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
We adjourn.
There was an update on the university master plan. That was on the agenda. Sorry. Just want to make sure.
Where are we on this thing anyway?
All right, this is what is happening right now. We have sat down and we had a meeting in regards to this in-house with West Goshen and the engineer. We have drafted comments on the plan that they had submitted. They're going through that right now. The original draft was sent to us. We made some corrections. We're asking them to do certain other things that need to be done. And we are addressing College Arms as a completely separate item from the master plan. 2 different animals, 2 different issues. Right now, I believe that we are expecting to have something for February. So going back and forth, we need to see if we can have it ready for us in February specifically for that. But right now, it's basically circling the wagons between West Goshen and us, having their engineer look at that master plan. And as you know, the engineer was hired mutually between the 2 of us, between the township and the borough. And they've been working pretty much non-stop since they got it. The approval to do this, to review it, have comments, specific things that they want to get done. I don't have the liberty right now to fill you in on everything that is on there, because it's going to change over the next couple of weeks. So it's about an hour and a half hour meeting, going over that plan and people picking it apart.
So will we see it again?
Yes, you will see.
Okay.
We have to come to something. We have to get something. The overriding idea is that the big issue originally was that we always wanted them to treat their development as a master plan similar to a comp plan. That these are the things they want to accomplish, not necessarily, they're going to say the most important, what's this second most important, is the third most important, but they can fluctuate between them, depending on when funding comes around for specific things or when, big need comes up. They think this is a minor problem, also it turns into huge issue. So there's going to be some sort of a master plan because that's what we've always wanted, have them have some basic stuff, but we just have to come together on how that master plan is going to be written, how we deal with it. Yeah, right now, we have agreed that College Arms is completely outside of the master plan. That's going to be.
Well, it isn't part of the district.
Yeah, it's not part of the district, and we're not going to require, we're just going to deal with that separate. Consecutively, but separately, two different animals.
Okay,
So that, because we don't want to complicate the master plan with the feelings that there are college arms, we have to make sure that they're both dealt with reasonably.
yeah, okay. Great,
That's-
that's very helpful.
That's
Thank
as
you.
much as I can give you right
Oh, that's really helpful. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Do you want me to?
now. I was just going to come over and take it through it.
So are you okay?
They'll fix it.
One second. All right.
Absolutely, give me one second. I'll have my contacts on it.
Congratulations.
How did you pick this up?
Yeah. Congrats.
It got stuck during the.
What's happening there?
You do such a good job.
I've seen the old.
No,
I
that's
just have to
definitely.
review all the copy. So I'm not going to do it. Right?
Exactly.
But college, read the work.